5 reasons why Red Bull will win the championship in 2021 in Formula One. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Greg Allen, Greg Allen F1. And if you follow my channel, I posted a video on why Red Bull will not win the championship in 2021 earlier this week. And some of the comments were not too happy with me over that one. So, always has to be said, keep your comments respectful. Unfortunately, YouTube did have to delete a few of those comments. But I always appreciate a good difference of opinion. And I was always planning on doing this video too. So, had a fun one with that. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons of why I think Red Bull could actually win the championship in 2021. If you watched my last video on this channel, you know all the reasons why I think Red Bull are going to struggle to catch up to Mercedes to win it. But here's 5 reasons why I think they might be able to get it done this year. And I really do think they're going to have a good chance next year. But let's worry about 2021. So number 1, the driver lineup, Max and Checo. By far the best driver lineup that Red Bull has gone into a season with in a long time. And I don't mean that as a disrespect to Albon, Gasly, or even Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously, I'm a huge Ricciardo fan, being a McLaren fan. And I think Pierre Gasly is on his way to becoming just a fantastic Formula One driver long term. Alex Albon had his own issues last year, but I think he'll find his way back into the sport eventually. That said, who can deny that Max and Checo is the most exciting lineup we've seen in Red Bull in Formula One in a really long time? Checo has proven himself. He's a proven Grand Prix winner, and he kept getting more and more out of the Racing Point and Force India cars for years, and he's finally getting his opportunity in one of the best teams in Formula One. Max Verstappen's Max Verstappen, of course, too. He's maybe the most talented driver in all of Formula One, and now he's got a teammate that really has a history of getting the most out of that car, which is what Red Bull has needed in that second seat. So if they're going to win the title, that is the absolute number 1 reason why I think they do. It's their driver lineup. If Checo is as built and can do what he has done at Force India, Racing Point, whatever you want to call them, for years, out of Red Bull with better equipment, there's no doubt they can close the gap and that Max is going to have a real good partner there to put some pressure on Mercedes. So that's number 1. Number 2, improved power units in 2021. The Red Bull car here isn't all that different. It's pretty much the same car that they ran last year, so that's kind of one of the reasons why in my last video I didn't think they would win the championship. But that doesn't mean in the offseason they can't improve the power unit, and that could be the difference maker, of course. Last year, Max wasn't that far off on pure speed in a lot of Grand Prix. There were some Grand Prix where Red Bull missed the mark, but overall, if they can close in even a little bit on that gap with the power unit and catch up to some of Mercedes, especially straight line speed, that could be a huge difference maker, and especially come qualifying time, if Red Bull can start taking first and second and splitting up that pretty much predominantly Mercedes front row week in and week out, that could make a huge difference, especially in the opening couple laps of a Grand Prix, of who's sitting in first, second, third, and fourth. So, improved power unit in 2021, I think testing shows that there's a good chance that might be the case, at least closing the gap enough. And if that's the case, could be a reason why they win the title. Number 3, easier cars to drive. Handling. I have it underlined multiple times here. For the last 3 years, all we've heard is how difficult these cars are to drive and how they're really set up for Max Verstappen's driving style. We saw Albon struggle to an extreme extent last year. Pierre Gasly in the 12 races he got in it struggled. And if they can make these cars just a little bit easier to handle, that's going to play a huge role. I think Sergio Perez is a much better driver with experience to perform well in a poorly handling car. But if you can give him something that's not as bad as it was the last 2 years, and we saw Christian Horner say that in testing, that the car should be a little bit easier to drive than it was a year ago, that could make a huge difference for the entire season. Overall, again, these cars aren't that different from the ones they drove last year, so I'm a little hesitant to say that one's going to be a for sure thing. Some of Sergio Perez's comments in the beginning of testing have me a little concerned that car is still very difficult to drive. But if it's even a little bit better than what Albon and Gasly were dealing with Checo in there, I think that should be enough to where Checo's performances can close that gap to Max a little bit. If they're much better performing cars and can keep that power unit speed, Red Bull's got a great chance, and my last video might be completely wrong. So we'll see. Number 4, coming to this side of the board, this is a really big one for me. Mercedes mishaps. And I listed 3 that I think could be really key going into this season. Number 1 for me is contracts. They have 2 drivers that are out of contract at the end of the year. They extended Valtteri Bottas last year through 2021, and then Lewis Hamilton only wound up signing a 1-year deal. And so all of those crazy contract drama that we saw play out with Lewis Hamilton all of last year is going to be there again this year, but this time with Bottas as well. And you know that if Valtteri Bottas struggles at any point in this season, where Bottas is going to be next year is going to become a massive distraction and story for Mercedes. And if Mercedes has any struggles at all, any mishaps like I'm saying here, they're going to be wondering if Lewis Hamilton is going to be leaving, and we might be having a conversation halfway through the season of a completely new driver lineup at Mercedes next year. That's not personally what I think is going to happen here. I think that Lewis is holding out for a more favorable long-term extension, 3-4 year extension. That's just my personal opinion. I do think that Valtteri Bottas might be in his last season with Mercedes after this one. That's a massive, huge story, though, that I think is going to become a really big one towards the end of this season. The second one I put on there was car struggles. I don't think this is as big of a deal as everyone made it to be in testing, but it does have to be noted that this was one of the worst testings we've seen for Mercedes in a long time. Lewis Hamilton and his seat struggles, the car seemed to have a little bit of straight line speed issues at times, a little bit of handling issues. The rear end was slipping out like crazy on the Mercedes. They had no grip. I think these are all things that they're going to have completely ironed out by Sunday, if not by FP2 on Friday. But either way, it is something, it's a story for sure. I don't think it's as big of a one as everyone made out to be. Not the testing session you'd want, but if Mercedes does have a mishap and take a step backwards, and Red Bull takes a step forwards, that's the gap right there, and Red Bull will be battling with them every week if that's the case. And the last one, of course, is bad luck. So not so much, I mean, Lewis Hamilton had a share of bad luck last year. He got COVID, and he had some weird things happen with rules that maybe he didn't agree with. He got penalized a lot last year, and it cost him at least 2 Grand Prix. And then, of course, Valtteri Bottas had so much bad luck last year. It totally cost him any chance at the Drivers' Championship. Anything that could go wrong for Valtteri Bottas last year did, and if that expands into this year and to Lewis Hamilton as well, that could be a massive game changer. If both these cars have some bad luck like Valtteri had last year, could be all the difference in the world and taking away some of that steam that Mercedes had last year. We pretty much had one driver with good luck, one driver with bad luck all of last season. If both of them suffer some bad luck, I mean, racing's racing, and luck is definitely a part of it. So we'll see what happens with that. And my fifth and final reason why Red Bull can win the championship in 2021 is if a third team becomes a threat. So I said that and stressed that a lot in my last video. I think Red Bull needs this. Red Bull, first of all, needs to win at least, in my opinion, 5 to 6 races to have any chance in the world at winning the Constructors. I think that Max or Checo would need to win at least 4 races themselves, at least, to have a chance at the Drivers' Championship. And to do that and it be successful, Mercedes is winning double-digit races every single season for the last 4 or 5 years. They're going to need a third team to take away some of those wins as well. And the two big threats for me are, of course, McLaren. I think they're with Mercedes power, Daniel Ricciardo, and an improved Lando Norris, they're going to take a huge step forward this year. At least I really hope they do. And Aston Martin, we don't know what they're going to be with Seb in there, but if they're as fast as they were last year or even faster, and you put Sebastian Vettel, a multiple-time world champion, in that car, that could be the difference. And if Seb wins a couple of races, McLaren wins a couple of races, and we have the 2-horse race of Red Bull and Mercedes there, with some of those points being taken away by some midfield teams being good enough to win races, which we saw last year, AlphaTauri and Aston Martin Racing, well, Racing Point back then, that could be the difference. Especially if you put it in with all the other things on these boards. If everything here plays out the way I'm saying it could play out, no doubt Red Bull can win the championship in 2021. What do I think is going to happen? I think Mercedes is going to be the world-class team that they have been. I think it will be a little bit closer this year, but I do expect fully for Lewis Hamilton to be crowned champion at the end of the year, and Mercedes to win another Constructors' Championship. But here are 5 reasons and 5 ways that Red Bull can win the championship in 2021. Let me know what you think in the comments as always. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please consider giving me a like and a subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.